Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello and welcome back to All for United's preview ahead of the probably one of the least look forward to Northwest derbies we're going to have in recent history. United travel to Anfield, obviously not happy hunting ground in the last couple of years. No ground's been happy hunting ground this year, but I've got a good panel of guests. At least there's a bit of positivity. So Gav, Neil, Mr. Tun, and Marcus. Hope you guys are all doing very, very well. We'll jump straight into it. Gav, obviously there's positivity from the result against Norwich. Is there anything we can take from that performance to Anfield at all?
We're lucky. We're scamming. I mean, Ronaldo and De Gea and the midfield and everybody else seem to just be headless chickens running around. I don't know what's going on with the team at the moment, but we take the win. We move to the next match and see what happens. I think it's a free hit on Tuesday. I think Sunday next week, the Arsenal match. That's the most important one. When we can get a win there, top four is definitely back on. So take the positivity. We got the win. The 3-2 I predicted against Everton has finally come out, and we just move. We move to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. Just got to keep on moving. Neil, I know you're probably the last person on earth that would ever admit this, but you know, United right now going to Anfield, is that a prospect that terrifies you at the minute?
Well, I was talking to John Commode, and I said, watching this game is a bit like when we were kids, and none of you are as old as me. It's like watching Doctor Who when the first time I'll be watching it from the back of the sofa through my hand, because I fear for our team. I mean, even based on yesterday's performance, if Norwich can score 2 against us, and let's be honest, they probably should have scored again, what the hell is Liverpool's team going to do to us? And I can't see us scoring against Liverpool, but I see us conceding, and I say that with a heavy heart, because we used to go to Anfield and win, and they used to be worried about us. But this could be a horror show on Tuesday, because we've shown nothing under Ranić for me to make me believe that we could get anything out of the game.
Yeah, it's fair enough. It's impossible to disagree with you there. Well, Mr. Tom, we'll go to this sort of defensive lack of awareness, if you will, that we showed against Norwich. Obviously, there's no holding midfielder at all. I think Pogba did an all right job deputising there, considering he's not great defensively. But you know, the only fit defensive midfielder we have is Nemanja Matic, and we don't even know if he can play a full 90 minutes at all, especially given that he had to play yesterday as well. So does that worry you, given how good the Liverpool are?
It more than worries me, and it's not that it worries me, but if anyone's noticed since Ralph's been there, because he's a very direct coach and old-fashioned in a way. So if you've noticed, even when Scott McTominay was in the team, the distance and between the defenders and the midfield is actually a big gap, because he likes to have his players push up the pitch to be very direct, get the ball back and go very direct. So it doesn't help then when you don't have that defensive midfielder now to even that thinks defensively to even shore it up. It's personally, I'm scared he's going to try to do something like what he done against Man City, you know, to try and to play them at their own game, which we can't do that against Liverpool. Man City, as much as Man City is good, they don't have that killer instinct the way Liverpool does. And personally, I feel like he should either go to 3 at the back or put a defender in the number 6 role, just to shore things up there, because yesterday we was open. We was seriously open yesterday, and that concerns me going into Tuesday's game. Seriously, that honestly concerns me big time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Marcus, we'll talk about this openness. Was it just on the lack of a defensive midfielder, or do you think maybe the fullbacks had anything to do with it? Because, you know, I know they were on a number of times caught too far up the pitch and leaving big gaps there as well. So are you sticking with this fullback partnership going to Anfield?
I mean, if he is, he better play a back 5, because Telles was awful. Telles was awful. I think the only way you're going to get a good version of Alex Telles is in a back five, as a lot of people have pointed out. On top of that, yeah, of course, the midfield made a huge difference, but Delo wasn't great either. I think Telles and Delo have a lot of blood on their hands off that performance against Norwich. So, yeah, he's got to play a back five. And even whether Nemanja Matic starts or not, he's got to go with the back five. I don't see any other logical way of doing it, because Liverpool have already piped us 5-0. It's not one of those seasons where we're going, they might do it. It's already happened. We've seen the evidence. So we already know what they're capable of. The season, they were 3-0 up against Man City yesterday, I believe, at halftime. Yes, the game didn't end that way, but, it could easily be like that with us. We could easily be down 3-0 again at halftime. So hopefully, I think he should go with the back five and just admit that we're not ready to play Liverpool, man. And I don't think people are going to be mad at you. I don't think people are going to be, embarrassed by the team sheet. I think people will be very understanding because of the circumstances we find ourselves in. At the end of the day, top four is still there with a shout, and your best chance of getting top four is getting a point against Liverpool and then going on a win streak till the end of the season. That's really it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you brought me nicely onto what I wanted to ask Gav, actually. I'll put this point across to you. Obviously, heading to Anfield with this sort of mentality among the fan base, obviously it's a fan base full of sort of egos. We feel like we should be winning every single game. How do you think turning up to Anfield with a back five, say include a defensive midfielder in that as well, would go down among certain sectors of the fan base?
I think it's a mixed bag, really, because you've got people who I think a lot of the fan base know that after what happened earlier on in the season when they came to Old Trafford, I think a lot of people, they're already expecting it's going to be another whitewash. It's going to be another difficult day. So going a little bit more defensive, it would suit Maguire to have that back five, because he seems to play better in a back five when he does it for England, when he does it for us in the past. If we've got the likes of Fred and McTominay back, they're used to playing in that sort of more like a back six than a back five. So I think it's going to be a game where we're going to be playing on the break like we've done against City in the past, and probably trying to nick a goal and see if we can get maybe a draw out of it. If we can get a win, brilliant. But I think the first thing we need to focus on is trying to stop Liverpool from scoring, and that's no easy feat. Even if we do play a back five, we've seen how they can play, how they pass through the lines. They've got some players who can literally just walk straight through our midfield. So I just think shoring up that side of the pitch with extra bodies is really a bad thing.
Well, Neil, I'll come to you then. Just final point on this. Obviously, without running the risk of sounding rude, you've lived through United's best times. You've enjoyed them as much as anyone has. How does it feel for you as a fan to look at how far we've fallen when we prepare for a game at Anfield?
Well, it's depressing, really, to be honest. I mean, we said before the show, I mean, we could, and this is quite unbelievable, could fall into a top four place. But we've been playing like a middling Premier League side. We're not beating teams. We're just, like yesterday against Norwich, that was embarrassing. To be 2 up and then 2-2, it was embarrassing. The good sides don't do that. They just don't do that sort of thing. And then we're relying on how old is he? 37-year-old to get us out of it. And the goalkeeper, like Blakey pointed out, best 2 players are at either end of the pitch. Everything going on in the centre was it was like Sunday League football. Just get on with it, lads. And it's depressing the way the season's been depressing. Last couple of years has been pretty rubbish. But at the moment, I'm not as positive as probably no one else. I'm not as positive as the rest of the panel when it comes to the rest of the season. And people say, well, we should go on a run to the end of the season. We've not shown at all during the whole of the season the ability to go on a run in the first place. We're on our second interim manager in 2 years, and Ralph doesn't seem to know his record's no better than Solskjaer's. So the players knew this. The club's just an absolute mess from top to bottom. And it's just embarrassing. I mean, Liverpool's fans, I've got mates who are Liverpool's fans, and luckily they don't give me that much stick. But I've got a feeling it might be coming on Tuesday. And that's it shouldn't be that way. We should be going there with our chests puffed out, ready to take them on. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, if we got a 0-0, and how depressing is that as a Man United fan? We're meant to be a free-flowing, attacking football club, and I'm sitting here hoping for a 0-0, and I just can't see it. It's embarrassing.
It very much is a sign of the times, isn't it? Well, we'll follow on with that sort of train of thought then, Mr. Tunn, in terms of where does United's next win come from, without trying to sound too negative, because obviously we've got Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, Brentford and Crystal Palace coming up. There's no easy game there at all. We've just played the last two, the worst two teams in the league, and the two games have finished 3-3 on aggregate. So realistically, where does another win this season come from? As horrible as that sounds as a United
fan. Well, it's about just Ralph has got to find a way to shore things up for us. All right. If we can come out of the Liverpool game with a draw, and like Neil said, we shouldn't even be thinking that as Man United fans, right? But if we can come out of that with a draw, and then if the next game is Arsenal, if I'm correct, I think Arsenal, we can beat them on our day. Do you know what I mean? Arsenal, we've seen it. They're a team that they're not the perfect team right now. So it's the bigger games that we've got left that we've got to try and nick a point from. The other games, we got to go into it like it's a cup final, unfortunately. We have to try and win those games because mathematically, top four is still there. Regardless, as some fans feel, because I talk to a lot of fans on Twitter and things like that, some fans already feel defeated for the season, but mathematically, top four is there for us. So we now have something to play for after the last weekend. So hopefully, the problem is the players' mentality. We've seen their mentality the last year. It just... when the going gets tough, they drop. That's the problem. And then when there's no pressure, they're up for it. Do you know what I mean? And it shouldn't be like that. So it's about trying to go into this, and hopefully the leaders, if there is any leaders in that dressing room, can galvanize that squad to go into the remaining games. Like each one's a cup final. Like I said, the big games, cool. We can try and get a draw between at Chelsea and Liverpool. Them 1 points are very important for us. Do you know what I mean? Because we're not expected to beat those teams. So, but the other games, I feel like we can win each of those games. It is possible. Yeah, it doesn't look like that over the season, but if you look at our season, then we shouldn't even be a top four race, to be honest. But we are there. So everything's there to play for. And a lot of these players, some of them might not even realize it, but you're playing for your career at United as well. There's a new manager coming in the summer. He's going to be watching this. He's going to be watching your last performance in the last couple of games. Play for your career at United, play for the fans, and play for the badge. That's what needs to happen right now, these last remaining games, because like I said, mathematically, top four is there. So let's just see how it goes, man.
That's more positive than I was expecting, so fair play for that. But Marcus, I'll pick up on a point that was just made in terms of the mentality of this team, and it just doesn't feel like it's there. Is it worrying to you that, we could play our best 11 every game, we could get the tactics spot on, and it would still feel like there's something mentally holding this team back to go on and push for this top four race?
Yeah, man, I wouldn't say it worries me anymore, because I think, like many Manchester United fans, I've emotionally detached myself. It's the hope that kills you. But I think because Spurs and Arsenal have shown their true colours in the past, I think history can repeat itself. I think Spurs are more likely to get top four just because they have Conte, and I rate him very highly as a manager, and I think his mentality is elite. But Arsenal have shown their true colours already. I mean, we're talking about Mikel Arteta having a great season. I'm hearing people saying, oh, he's a great coach. Look what he's done with the young squad. And he's behind us, by the way. We're so bad and he's behind us. We're 32 games in. This is not a false table, or you can say it's only 5 games. It's the beginning of the season. Give him time. No, they're actually behind us in the table. So if we're that bad and we're still in the top four race, that tells you everything you need to know about the teams around us. So that's literally the only saving grace for Manchester United. I'm looking at our fixtures here. Like, we have obviously Arsenal after Liverpool, which I think is definitely a winnable game. Brentford, Brighton. I'm not so sure about those ones because typically this season we've done so badly against teams in the bottom half of the table. So I don't know about those ones. Then we've got Chelsea. Like, it's just not looking good. It's just not looking good. We're literally relying on other teams dropping points, which again, I think is very possible because we're talking about Spurs and Arsenal here. Like, Spurs just have to be Spursy and Arsenal just have to do what they've been doing ever since Wenger retired. So it's one of them ones there where it's sad, but we actually might scam our way to top 4, not because we deserve it, but because other teams are just that bad, if that makes any sense at all. And yeah, that's why for me, I'm like overwhelmingly disinterested this season. You know, I really couldn't care less. A lot of these players are leaving at the end of the season anyways. So what do they have to play for, really? You've got the likes of Jesse Lingard, who comes in yesterday, and fair play to him, he was our best midfielder, but like, he hasn't been used. You know what I mean? He hasn't been used. This is somebody who's already made it clear that he wants to leave the club. He just wanted to go play football. We didn't let him. Now he's forced to play under these circumstances. Like, you know, what can you really expect from some of these players? And I'm not, you know, defending them or anything like that, but you've got to put yourself in their shoes and say, really, why would you try? I mean, you got poor Pogba. What did he say the last time? Something along the lines of the season is dead. There's nothing to play for because there's no trophies. And that, you know, caused the rift in the fan base. But it's true, you know, it's true. I think any elite level player in that dressing room is can't be asked because of what's happening at the club, and shouldn't be that way. They should play for the badge till the end of the season. They should try to get top 4. But as I said, most of these guys are leaving, so I don't see it. I don't see it, and I think that's the root of a lot of the mentality issues at this club. You know, if you want to really solve the mentality issue, get players in who actually want to play for the club. Don't start players who don't deserve to start, who aren't starting on merit, who aren't starting based on form, or aren't starting based on what they've done for the club. You know, get more players in who actually want to be here, and you'll start to see an uptick in the mentality. Of course, tactics are important. Of course, coaching is important. But the main thing for me is getting players who want to be here, you know? So there's too many pretenders. There's too many pretenders.
I think that will resonate with a lot of fans as well. The fact that it seems so hard to care about United at the minute, given that what we're seeing on the pitch and what we're seeing from the effort levels. But, you know, I do want to move on to a topic that it's not going to be easy to discuss given the circumstances, but we do have to talk about Paul Pogba. Now, obviously, we all know what's happened, and I'll preface this by saying I think this is a culmination of years of constant abuse towards a player. I think it's not great that he's cooked his ears, but I don't blame him at all. I think fair enough. It's just a slight retaliation, but I'll come to you first, Gav. Not necessarily. We'll put aside our thoughts on the situation as a whole, but is this him done at United now? Is that him out the door? Do you think he'll even play again for this team after that?
I wouldn't be surprised if they have him play a part between now and the end of the season, but I think it's error. It's irreparable. It's basically gotten to a point where both the fan base and the player, there's a disconnect now. It's been constant with regards to Raiola. It's been constant with regards to him talking about, I want to be out. I want to be out. I wouldn't mind going here. I wouldn't mind doing something else. So if he was going to sign a contract, he would have done it by now. So I think come the end of the season, come the summer, thank you for whatever it is that you've done for the last 6 years, 5 years. But no, it's time to go. You go off and millions at PSG, try and win yourself a Liga and maybe a Champions League if they ever do it. I don't think they will, but if they ever do it. And we'll move on and finally get some of the toxicity out of the club. Him going means no Raiola. I don't think we got any other Raiola clients at the club. So one less thing that the fan base have to worry about.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, Neil, I'll come to you. Obviously, yesterday, the fact that he was played as a holding midfielder, it sort of just sums up what the last couple of seasons have been for him. I think this is his 6th different position he's already played this season. So is it justified for him to feel this frustration at the club and want to leave because of the uncertainty?
I mean, the frustrating thing with Pogba, I think all of us agree, he has got enormous talent. I think that's just a given. we get frustrated when we watch him play for France. But he has been moved around a lot in the United team. I think my personal view is he's better play when he plays off the left, which is where he played for Juve and where he played for France. He's clearly not a holding midfielder. Athletically, he could be. He has got the ability to do it all. Because when he wants to switch it on, which we've all seen him do it, we've not seen him do it in the United shirt. And I'd said ages ago he's got to go because of Raiola, and because he could have stopped the Raiola thing by him making the statement and saying this is where I stand. And instead, speaking through Raiola has done him no favours. I disagree enormously with people booing the shirt, and that's what people did yesterday. He played half decent yesterday. He definitely wasn't the worst player, but that doesn't say a lot considering the headless chicken approach that we seem to have. I feel with Pogba, he has to go. But I also worry that it's one of these situations where I have a feeling he'll come back and bite us in the ass. Years ago, we sold Gordon Strachan to Leeds, and then he come back and won the title with Leeds, which was probably well before any of you lot were born. But that's my worry with him, that he goes somewhere else. But he's had 5-6 years of this, and I don't blame him yesterday for cupping his ears at the fans. I'd be exactly the same. I think there's a terrible, toxic group of percentage of our fans that just want to do this sort of thing because they think it's funny and stuff like that. You never boo the shirt. Do not boo any Manchester United player in a Manchester United shirt. Never boo the shirt. And that's where I stand on the Pogba situation for yesterday. I think it's an embarrassment to the fan base, to the general loyal fan base, that you've got a bunch of idiots. And let's be honest, they're probably doing it for social media clicks and likes and all that crap. But I think it's embarrassing. And that's what I took from the game yesterday, that people shouldn't be doing that sort of thing. This would have happened under Fergie. I know I keep banging on about the good old days. The good old days are gone, let's be honest. But this is it seems to be just a reflection of just the complete mire that this club seems to be in at the moment. It's all over the place. We've got fans booing the shirt, booing the badge. They'll turn around and say, no, we're not booing it. No, when he's got the shirt on, don't boo him.
Fair enough. It's very, very, very agreeable statement. 100%, yeah. Well, Mr. Tum, we'll move away from it slightly. We'll take the context out of it. We'll talk about on the pitch, because like Neil said, I think given the role that he was forced to do yesterday, I think Pogba actually played very well. He's a player who's said in an interview he doesn't like defending, he can't defend, and I thought he did well in that sense in an unfamiliar role. So does this prove that, take away everything that's gone on right now, would you agree that it is important to keep Pogba in this team to maximise our chances of top four?
It's a double-edged sword, really. It depends if the player's mind is still at United in a way for fighting to the end of the season, or he's already checked out. Because, I'm pretty sure most of you have seen his interview when he was at France and about, his position, and he doesn't understand his role at United for the last couple of years, which I could totally understand. Like someone just mentioned, the Juventus and where he played. Because it's funny. There was an interview last season where he said, my best position is on the left of a free midfield. And after that interview, Ollie goes and play him on the left wing. Like that says it all, innit? Like, really and truly, he's not been happy, clearly, his role, his position in the team. He's always asked, said he likes to play in this way. And it's hard because obviously, like what M said, is that they're footballers, but they're also humans, innit? So they want to play in their favorite positions, or because it's when he came to United, it's not like where he's going to a team that's building something and he's got molded into a certain position, right? He was getting moves all the time from day one, and sometimes 10, sometimes DM. He was always getting moved about. Whereas in some players, they get molded, right? Some, like KDB was a winger, and then he went to Cam, and then now he's a centre mid. You get they get moved and molded. Whereas with him, he's just been chopped and changed and moved everywhere. Okay, we need you over here now, filling over here, and that is not good for a player. Really, it can make them unhappy, especially when what they've got in their locker is better in the final third. It doesn't. I don't know with the Pogba thing. It is best for both parties. Eventually, he does. You know, we come to a divorce. But as for the rest of the season, if his head is in, then play him. But then there's a lot of other players like Mbappe, Rudiger, who are out of their contracts at the end of the season, and they're playing good for their clubs. So I don't see no excuse why he can't play good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Marcus, just final point on Pogba then. Obviously, we know the pros and cons of Pogba. You know, he can control a game on his own. He has that spark. He can make something happen out of nothing. But then you have the cons of, you know, it's hard to find a balanced team with him in the lineup. It's questionable whether his head's still there. Do you keep him in the starting 11, given the immense pros that he has to his game?
Yeah, I think for me personally, you play him off the bench and you bring him on later, like Ollie did. 2 reasons. Number one, his head is clearly gone, right? Like his head is clearly gone. So what's the point really? And number 2, a lot of people don't talk about this enough. And I'm not saying this is an excuse, but it is the truth. It's Ramadan at the moment. So a lot of players who are Muslim are going to struggle to play a full 90 minutes consistently week in, week out. A lot of people will be like, yeah, but so-and-so performed and scored a hat-trick yesterday. It's like, yeah, bro, but like that's one out of how many players, you know? Like let's be a little bit more grown up with our analysis. That's something you have to take into account. And I think that's actually why Ollie didn't play him so much. There was a period where Ollie just stopped starting Pogba and he kept bringing him off the bench, and he was actually playing better at that time. But then as soon as he came back into the starting 11, for some reason, he's had a bit of a fitness issue. And I think around this time of the year, it kind of makes sense. But yeah, going back to the whole thing about him leaving and whether or not he should start, for me, yeah, I don't think he should be starting. I personally don't feel comfortable with players we already know are leaving the club still playing week in, week out. It just doesn't make sense to me, unless it's somebody who's actually in form. They're one of our, okay, he is one of our best players, but they're in form and they're playing like one of our best players, and they're so important that we can't drop them. I can't really say that about Pogba, you know? Like, I really don't think that he's made an immense impact since he's come back. I'm not saying he's been bad, you know, don't get me wrong. And I love Paul Pogba. We all know the talent that he has, but I just haven't seen it for me since he's come back. So I don't think it would do much harm to bring him off the bench. You know, I'm not saying drop him and just alienate him from the team completely. You know, you can always bring him on. And I imagine it's 0-0 against Liverpool at Anfield with half an hour to go, and you bring on Paul Pogba and you actually play him in an attacking position. Ronaldo's still on, looking for chances. You know, that you could get something out the game there. But if it's Paul Pogba who's tired, he's jogging, he's not really tracking back, you know, I just don't see the point of that player. You know, I think he's just fed up, and, you know, I think the club know that as well. So they should just act accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gav, to follow on from that point then, if you don't start Pogba, you know, assuming Matic is starting and working on the assumption that Fred and McTominay won't be fit for Tuesday, who starts in his place in that midfield?
Well, I mean, we have got players on the bench that we could utilise, like Garnacho could come on. I know that obviously it's a big match and you don't really want to be relying on the youth, but we need a little bit of consistency in the running. And one thing that we can't label with Paul Pogba is consistent. And to a certain extent with Matic as well, although he's our best DM, we know that he can't play a full 90 and definitely can't play 2 games a week. If he featured on Saturday, then there's no way he's going to feature on Tuesday, or if he does, it'll be a bit part. So why not, you know, start Matic, play him for 60 minutes, and then bring on somebody from the youth academy to see the rest of the match out. We've got such a wealth of talent that are in our youth academy that are just literally on the edge of joining the first team and doing something special, similar to what Alanga has done. He's dropped off a little bit of late. Still got his assist though. So why not utilize somebody from the youth academy and bring them into put them on the bench, and then bring them on as a substitute and see what happens. I can't see any harm in it when we are threadbare in that position at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Neil, just to finish up on this then, obviously Anfield's a ridiculously big game. So do you risk starting one of these youngsters that have very little Premier League experience, or do you just stick with Pogba and just sort of try and see out the game as best you can?
This is Liverpool away at Anfield, and I'm not into this also special atmosphere at Anfield because it's a night game, but the atmosphere will be pretty damn toxic. And I think throwing one of the youth kids into a midfield at Anfield, I think you're asking a hell of a lot. You're asking a hell of a lot from the step up of whatever level they're playing at to go to Anfield to play against one of the best teams in world football at the moment, whether we like it or not. I think you're asking a hell of a lot of a player, and you might damage that player in a way that could take time for us to recover. It has happened before, but players have made debuts at Anfield and looked dreadful, and you looked at them and thought, what the bloody hell. I think Evra's debut was at Anfield going back, and he looked appalling. And yet he turned out to he managed to turn it around. But I think throwing a youth player in there, I think you get what you can out of Matic. It just shows how sort of poorly run our club is. If we're completely threadbare, there's no one in between the youth team and the first team squad that you can say, right, we need this person could step up. So I think you need to try and get what you can out of Matic, and I'm pretty certain. I have a feeling Pogba will play in the same position. And one of the reasons I think that is because we ain't got much choice. So he'll probably play in the same position because that's just where our backs are against the wall. I mean, how can we be threadbare? I mean, I find it ridiculous that we're threadbare at any position, and yet we are. So
yeah,
you get what you can out. You get Pogba. You just hope that he's got a bit of pride. You just appeal to his pride to say, come on, yes, okay, you're leaving. I mean, I think that's all you can do is just appeal to him basically on a level of pride and ask him to do the job. I'm sure he'll be motivated to play against Liverpool because he knows he's going to get some stick off their fans.
Yeah, it's a sign of the times, isn't it? Like you said, the fact that £1 billion spent and we're still threadbare in multiple positions. But we'll move on to the attack. I'll come to you, Mr. Torn. Obviously, it's fantastic getting caught up in this elation of the Ronaldo hat trick, but I think that's only his fourth game in 2022 that he's actually scored in. So he's not an overly reliable goal scorer for us. Does that concern you when we go to somewhere like Anfield, especially given that realistically we're going to have Sancho and Elanga either side of him, and they're not chipping in with goals either at the minute?
It's definitely concerning. Obviously, we've seen it against in the bigger games. In the Champions League, he stepped up in a few moments, but we're not going to have the ball a lot. So we're going to have to work a lot in that game. And you're going to trust a 37-year-old to work hard and a lot in a big game? That's the point where it's concerning, because it's like what Neil just said. Who have we got to come in now? Cavani, the situation with him. Who's going to come in and play up front? We're going to do what we done again against City, play Pogba and Bruno as the false nines or whatever. It's like you can say you can bring Rashford and put him there, but he's not in form. I don't know with the Ronaldo. It's the fact that I know that game, the Liverpool game, we're going to have to work hard. Is Ronaldo going to work hard in that game, or did he need the pieces behind him that's going to work hard? Like with Norwich yesterday, what I've noticed is the Lingard and Langer worked really hard off the ball. You know what I mean? That's how we got one of Ronaldo's goals. They worked really hard. Are we going to have a system like that? And that's the problem. It's just, yes, Ronaldo can score in moments, like he's shown us at Spurs as well. He can do that. But it's the fact that I know the quality of the opposition, and we're going to have to work our socks off on that day. And why are we in a situation where we're trusting a 37-year-old to work his socks off? We shouldn't be in that situation in the first place. This is once again what Neil said. As a club, this is poor, man. It's really poor right now. And I don't know what we're gonna do about that situation. I would love to see what Ralph is gonna do about that. Actually, I would love to see.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. We'll build on that point. I'll come to you, Marcus, because obviously a point that was made after we lost 5-0 to Liverpool that was that, playing Ronaldo up front, a player who doesn't like to really work from the front, is like playing with 10 men against Liverpool, isn't it? Because you really do have to defend from the front. So is this a case of, maybe we sacrifice Ronaldo, maybe bring in Rashford, who we know he's going to work off the ball as much stick as we give him, maybe bring in a Lingard. We've seen consistently how hard he works when he's out on that pitch. Is this a sense of we're going to be going for who's got the best lungs rather than who's got the best technical ability?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, you're basically asking Rolf to choose between a red pill and a blue pill, but they're both going to kill him instantly. It's like, you need a goal against Liverpool. You need a goal, and the only goal scorer we have in form is the one that we're trying to take off because he doesn't run a lot. It's, it's a really strange situation to be in. But yeah, as bizarre as it sounds, he probably does take off Ronaldo because, again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can bring these players off the bench. Like Ronaldo can come off with half an hour to go to try and do something. He doesn't have to start from minute 1 to score a goal. So yeah, you probably do start someone like Rashford or Langer. Maybe you play Langer up front and you play Rashford out wide and Sancho out wide, because I think Langer's just in better form and just better suited to adapt. I think he's in a bit of a rhythm at the moment. Yes, he's a young player. Yes, he has a lot to learn. Yes, you don't really want to be moving him around, but the circumstances require you to do so anyways. And I think having someone like Rashford, even though he's in terrible form, I think he will be better equipped to deal with the atmosphere at Anfield than, say, bringing on someone like a Hannibal or any other youth player who could play in that position. And then, it all depends on how he solves the midfield issue. I think that's the real important thing there, because whether he starts Ronaldo or not, if we don't have a proper midfield, we're losing at Anfield, regardless of what happens. So if Pogba is going to play in the 6 and Matic is going to play alongside him or come on later on, then for me, it's 100% still got to be a back 5. Whether it's a back 5 with Telles, Delo, a back 5 with Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, I don't know. Maybe you even bring Wan-Bissaka on because at least defensively we know he'll be better than Delo. So, yeah, he's got to be resourceful, Ralph, and I feel sorry for him because, I mean, benching Ronaldo is not going to go over easy with some of the fan base. A lot of our fans seem to have this obsession with Ronaldo, and I get it. He scored 2 hat-tricks this season. He's been one of our most important players, but they seem to ignore all of his weaknesses, and be like, oh, where are the people calling him the problem now? It's like, he's not the problem, but he's also not the solution. He's also not the solution. And it's his overall game not being complete, coupled with his age, that makes him part of a bigger problem at Manchester United. So it's a weird one. It's a very, very weird one. But I think you bring Ronaldo off the bench. I think you bring whoever else you can bring off the bench to try impact the game. You try keep the score 0-0 for an hour, and that's the game plan. That's the game plan, man.
Yeah. As Neil suggested, bring Neil off the bench. I think he'd do a job. But yeah, I think you've put a difficult talking point. I think you've put it very well there in terms of he's not a problem, but he's part of a problem, definitely. But if I dare to do it, Gav, we'll look at possible ways that United could score a goal at Anfield. I know it seems completely ludicrous right now, but we've seen time and time again this season that Liverpool really struggle with balls in behind them, with fast players up front. So even if he isn't in the best of form, does this again lend a hand to perhaps getting Marcus Rashford back in the starting lineup?
Yeah, if you look at the likes of the City matches that we played under Ollie, one of the reasons that we got results out of that and goals out of that was because we played on the counter-attack. We hit people, we hit the teams with very fast counter-attacking football, and that's where we got the most joy out of those matches. And I think that's where we sort of need to be looking in this match. Yes, play that back 5, but we need legs on the pitch that can basically do that counter-attack at pace and try and get at the defence. We know that although Trent is good going forward, he's not so great in his defensive duties. We know that although Robertson is one of the best, he hasn't exactly been playing brilliant this season. So there are mistakes in that back four. Okay, yes, Van Dijk is Van Dijk, but he's not. It's not like he's infallible. That he can make mistakes. So I think if we add Alanga, Rashford, and Sancho, I think that it allows us to have that pace on that break. Martial has, okay, it hasn't worked out, but one of the great things that he did when he was playing up front was hold that ball up to allow the wingers to go down, and then he'd get into the box once he'd given it to him. Now, I don't see Ronaldo dropping deep to get the ball to do hold up play as much as I'd like. Don't get me wrong. When he's frustrated, you see him coming down as far as the centre backs trying to get involved in the game. But we don't want that. We want somebody who's going to come down, get the ball, get it to wide, leg it into the box, and then receive it. I don't know if Ronaldo's going to be able to do that for the length of time that we need. I don't know whether he's got the legs to do it. So I'd have the front three of Rashford, Alanga, and Sancho. You got pace, you got a good mix of quality, and hopefully we can hurt them with that.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Seems like a good enough shout. Well, Neil, just the last talking point of the show, I want to dive back to that defence. Assuming we do play a five at the back, obviously we've got Lindelof and Maguire who came in the last game. I think it's fair to assume that Varane will be injured. So who do you bring into a back three? We've got Eric Bailly who's not played in a long time. I'm struggling for options behind that. So could a back five be a risk in that sense?
Well, if he does go to a back five, which I think we all seem to agree is our best chance. By the way, I agree with the front three that we've all said about, and I'm not sure Ronaldo's got 2 games a week in him anyway, and he definitely hasn't got the legs to run Liverpool, because Van Dijk could have a field day against Ronaldo. He'd just be stepping over the centre line and just carrying the ball as far as he wants. But as regards to defence, I think if Bailly's fit, again, we're threadbare there. What chance? We have got no option. If we're playing 3 at the back, surely Bailly, he's the only option. But then Bailly, normally his first touch is a yellow card, so he's liable to get himself into a bit of trouble. But I think he's the only alternative. I don't see. You can't drag a kid out of the youth team to play against that Liverpool forward line. They could get destroyed. I don't care how good they are, but it's got to be Bailly, isn't it? I mean, what is the alternative? I mean, Varane injured again. There's a surprise. God blimey, our medical department are brilliant, aren't they? Who did Varane's physical when they signed him from Real Madrid? Mr. Magoo. I mean, for the love of God, what an absolute waste of money he's been. Madrid absolutely tucked us up there. Tucked us right up. Bloody Franco's team. So he's another one that could be gone at the end of the season, by the way. So we need about 3 centre-halves. It's got to be Bailly. That's it. That's what I feel. What is the alternative?
Well, I'll present an alternative to Mr. Tunman. Obviously, we know that Bailly can be erratic and he hasn't played for a while, so there's an extra element of risk there. Is there a possibility of bringing Wan-Bissaka into a back three?
Yeah, that is a possibility. I feel like his attributes anyway to me will be better in that sort of position anyway. He's got the pace, can cover the ground. He's defensively sound as much as his problem is going up, and then that's why he makes the recoveries, because he doesn't track back, and that's his problem, getting caught out of position. So if you're telling him now to sit in the back three, and with his pace, maybe there's something in that. But yeah, the options are quite thin. The only thing I would say about Bailly, if I'm correct, was it the Chelsea game? He come in and he did do a job. That's the only thing I can say about with that. But I definitely feel like Wan-Bissaka can do a job there. I don't even know. Wait, who got injured? Tell us. I don't even tell us is going to be fit. If I'm correct, I don't know. I know he came off, but I don't know if he's going to be fit for the game. That's another situation as well. So I don't even know what's going to happen there. Are you going to bring the academy youth product there? We've got a good academy left back, Fernandez. I don't know what's going to happen.
Who knows? Neil, go on. You put your hand up.
What about playing Shaw in the back three? He's done it before. If
Shaw's
Telles
going
is
to be
fit.
injured.
He's injured.
Shaw's definitely out.
He's taking out his legs.
Is he definitely out?
Yeah, he's going to be out to the end of the season.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll do you a favour. I'll shut up. I'll shut up then.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated. But Marcus, just final points before we go around and get score predictions. Is there anyone from Liverpool, other than the obvious candidates, that is really sticking out to you that could be a problem for United?
Yeah, I must be honest and say I haven't watched a lot of Liverpool because it's difficult to watch Liverpool as a United fan because it reminds me of us in the good old days, as Neil puts it. It's difficult because I just get frustrated, and it shouldn't be that way. When I watch other teams, it should be an escape from Manchester United, but somehow every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. I don't know. I feel like Mane is a very underrated player for Liverpool this season. Yes, he's not their best player. Yes, he's not their most impactful player. But I do think he is a massive threat. I think even there was that period where obviously him and Salah were out because of the AFCON and Liverpool was still winning games. They were still controlling games. They were still doing the things that they needed to do to get over the line. I think he's been good for them this season as well. He's been a good option. Firmino, he seems to be somebody who, yes, we can all agree he's not the best in terms of goal scoring, but his technical ability and what he offers off the ball has always been what Liverpool have valued in him. I mean, there's so many players, for Liverpool, but I would be lying if I could pick one and say that's the one this season because I try my best not to watch Liverpool, man. I get too frustrated. So I don't know.
I think you could also argue that they're that good that, you take any one of these players out of the team, someone else is going to fill their spot just as well, which is also quite impressive.
Yeah.
But, before we all start crying, I'll get score predictions and first goal scorers off you all. So I'll come to you first, Gav.
Difficult. I don't really want to predict a loss. I want to try and be a bit positive. I think it's probably the most positive I'll be before the match. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think if we can come away with a point from Anfield, it's not our battle. I think our battle is for the rest of the season. If we can come away with a point, I'll be more than happy with that. So I'm going to go with 1-1.
Fair enough, Neil.
1-1. I can't say that we're going to lose to Liverpool, but I really fear if Liverpool score first. I must admit, if Liverpool score first, I do wonder because they very good at shutting up shop. Well, apart from yesterday, but normally they're pretty good at shutting up shop. But I'm going 1-1, and that's the best. I mean, this is I tell you what, how the mighty have fallen. The best we can hope for is a draw. And let's be honest, Blakey and myself so far, we're not actually 100% convinced that we've got a chance of doing it. In our heart says one thing, but our brain is probably saying something slightly different. And that's how far this team has fallen, and it's so depressing that in such a short period of time we have just fell off a cliff.
Yeah. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. What were you going to say, Gav? Sorry.
It's the hope that kills you.
Yeah, absolutely. Get rid of all the hope. That's the message you can take away from this episode. But Mr. Tun, go on. Are you going to follow on with the 1-1s?
I'm going to take a political stance here. What I'm going to say is that we need a draw, and I expect a draw. But if Ralph does anything like City game and tries to go play their football, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? We need that draw. So I'm going to go for a draw. Probably 1-1.
Marcus, are you going to complete this scorecard of 1-1s?
Well, actually, I'm going to
You're
go for
gonna be
7-0 United. No, I'm kidding. Look. If Ralph gets a draw, I think he deserves a statue and one of the stands at Old Trafford renamed after him. Like that's how deep this is, you know. So I hate predicting that United are going to lose, but just for the sake of being that guy on the panel, I think Liverpool are going to win. You know, I think Liverpool are going to win. This is like reverse psychology. So if we do come out with a draw, it feels even better. I don't think it will be a 5-0. You know, as good as Liverpool are, I don't think we will lose 5-0 again. I just don't see it happening. At worst, I think it will be like a 3-1 or a 2-1 Liverpool win. You know, that's what I think, anyways. But yeah, you know, that's just tough, man. That's just tough. I never imagined as a kid growing up through high school that I would be predicting that Liverpool are going to win against Manchester United. You know, 10 years into the future. But yeah, we are. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I think if we're all being honest as well, it's almost impossible not to predict a United win. But I'll round things off by saying it's going to be the most uncomfortable 0-0 draw any of us have ever witnessed. Real backs to the wall stuff. I think if United do score a goal, I'm backing Harry Maguire from a header from a corner because that's about all he seems useful for at the minute. But on that immense wave of positivity, we'll bring it to an end there. So a massive, massive thank you to you guys for joining me. Really appreciate you, especially recording on Easter Sunday. It's very nice of you to take time out your Sunday to join me. Massive thank you to everyone who tuned in. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe. Hopefully we'll have more positivity after the Liverpool game when we've just scraped a miraculous draw from them. And we'll all be ecstatic somehow. But yeah, until then, try and stay positive. I know we didn't, but like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.